Elvis Presley couldn't keep his hands off of her while they were filming. Now, 50 years later, Juliet Prowse's shocking love triangle is finally revealed. She wasn't just dating these two famous people. She slept with both of them at the same time. "Elvis and I had an affair," she finally admitted before she died, but that wasn't her biggest secret. The shocking truth about who she loved and the baby she had that no one knew about Juliet Prowse was born on September 25, 1936, in Bombay, British India. Her father, Reginald Morley Prowse, was English with South African roots and worked as a traveling salesman. Her mother, Phyllis Thadon, was born in India but had English roots. At the time, Bombay was a busy colonial city under British rule, full of different cultures, a growing economy, and a mix of traditions. But Juliet's life in India was when Juliet was only 3, her father died. His death changed everything because her mother had to take care of 2 young children. She made the hard decision to move the family to South Africa in search of stability and support. They lived with relatives in Durban for a while before settling in Johannesburg. This city was growing quickly and had lots of new opportunities, but it was also divided by strict racial laws. For Juliet, the biggest change wasn't the place where she lived, but the new path she would take from a young age. Was naturally drawn to movement. When she was 4, her mother noticed this and put her in ballet classes. What started out as a simple activity quickly turned into something more. Juliet had a natural talent that her teachers saw right away. She moved with grace and learned quickly and showed a deep connection to dance. It wasn't just about following steps. She could express emotion through movement in a way that made her stand out. By the time she was 14, she had already reached an amazing milestone. She became one of the youngest members of Johannesburg's Festival Ballet Company, a prestigious group where only the best young dancers performed. She trained in classical ballets like Swan Lake, Coppelia, and Les Cils feats. Things were going well. She had the talent, the discipline, and the passion. But when she applied to the prestigious London Festival Ballet, Anton Dolan turned her down because she was too tall for ballet. That rejection could have ended her career, but she didn't give up. Instead, she found another way to move forward. Prowse had a lot of stage presence, which was important for show dancing. The change wasn't easy for her because she had trained in classical ballet, where technique and accuracy were everything. Show dancing, on the other hand, needed a different kind of energy. It was more about commanding attention than fitting in with the crowd, so she had to relearn how to move, adapt, and make the most of what made her stand out. She started performing in European nightclubs, and her unique style quickly caught people's attention. While ballet turned her down because she was different, show dancing loved everything about her. It wasn't long before she was one of the most sought-after performers on the circuit. Her big break came in 1955, when she auditioned for Gentlemen Marry Brunettes and caught the attention of Jack Cole, one of Hollywood's most respected choreographers. Cole had worked with her before. Cole saw Prowse perform and knew she was special. She only had one number in the movie, but it was enough to make an impression. He asked her to work with him again, which led to her being cast as Princess Samantha in the London production of Kismet. Her solo dance to Not Since Nineveh became one of the show's biggest hits. The production ran for 20 months, and PR performance was one of the best by the time it was over. She had proven herself to be more than just a nightclub performer. She had become a true stage star. Hollywood was taking notice, and she was ready for the next step. But just when everything seemed to be going smoothly, she faced another challenge while performing at Paris's famous Eve nightclub. She hurt her ankle in a motor scooter accident. For a dancer, an injury like that could mean the end of their career because every move they made depended on strength and control. Prowse wouldn't let the hard recovery process stop her. She fought her way back to Eve with even more determination. The nightclub was the perfect place for her to regain her strength. It was known for its daring and innovative performances, which was the perfect place to show off her unique talent. Her comeback wasn't just about getting better physically, it was also about showing that nothing could stop her. Juliet Prowse's path to Hollywood began by chance in the late 1950s when she was working as a nightclub performer. Hermes Pan, a famous Hollywood choreographer who had worked with stars like Fred Astaire, was in Europe looking for new talent for an upcoming musical called Can Can 1960. As soon as he saw Prowse dance, he knew she had something special, and he quickly recommended her to 20th Century Fox. That recommendation led to her being cast in the movie, though at first it was only a small part as a dancer named Celestine. But fate had other plans during the movie. During pre-production, another dancer named Barry Chase had to drop out. This sudden change created an opening, and the studio quickly decided not to hire a new actress, but to give Prowse more screen time and a new character named Claudine. This gave her more dialogue with some of Hollywood's biggest stars, including Frank Sinatra, Shirley MacLaine, and Maurice Chayler. When filming began, it became clear that Prowse was more than just a talented actress. She was an undeniable presence on screen. One of her most memorable scenes was the ballet sequence in Adam and Eve, where she played the snake dressed in shimmering blue-green snake skin. She moved with hypnotic grace as she slid down the branches of the tree of life, holding a red apple. The scene was so mesmerizing that even Frank Sinatra, who had worked with some of Hollywood's biggest stars, was stunned. He later called her the sexiest dancer I've ever seen. People who saw the movie gave Prowse's performance great reviews. It was her big break in Hollywood, and people took notice. But her rise to fame wasn't just due to her talent. One event during filming made her famous all over the world. In September 1959, while Conan was still being shot, Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev visited the set as part of his historic U.S. tour, where he met President Dwight Eisenhower and learned about American culture as a sign of goodwill. The film's producers Khrushchev was invited to see a rehearsal of the Can Can dance. It seemed like a simple idea to introduce one of the most powerful men in the world to a classic form of entertainment. But what happened next was unexpected. The performance included high kicks, swirling skirts, and bold choreography that showed glimpses of the dancers' underwear. It was fun and energetic, but Khrushchev saw something completely different. He sat through the rehearsal without reacting much, but later he made his feelings known in a press conference. He said that the performance was sexy, disgusting, and immoral, and that it had no place in Soviet society. His words were reported all over the world almost overnight, and the movie Can Can became one of the most talked about of the year. Pictures of Juliet Prowse dancing were printed in newspapers in many countries. Some people thought Koff was overreacting, while others saw it as a clash of two different cultures. In any case, the controversy gave Prowse a level of fame that few newcomers could ever hope for. Years later, she thought the whole thing was strange because Khrushchev seemed to enjoy the performance and even clapped along at times. She didn't think he would criticize it so harshly afterward, but whether he really didn't like it or was just making a political point, the result was the same. She became famous all over the world, and it wasn't just her comments that made the news. She was young, beautiful, and incredibly talented. And then there was the romance. During filming, Conan Prowse and Frank Sinatra became close, and soon rumors spread that they were dating. Sinatra was deeply in love with her. He featured her in 2 of his TV specials, and by 1962 they were engaged. That same year, she starred opposite Elvis Presley in G.I. Blues 1960, a movie that became a huge hit at the box office. At the time, she was already making headlines for her dancing in Cannes 1959, which made her famous because Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev called her performance immoral. When she moved from 20th Century Fox to Paramount for GI Blues, she made only $300 a week, but the studio made a lot of money on the set. Her chemistry with Elvis was undeniable. Their kissing scenes were so intense that director Norman Turog had to step in and tell them to calm down. Off-screen, things were just as heated. I later admitted that Elvis and I had an affair. We had a sexual attraction like two healthy young people, but he was already a victim of, she said. They only went on a few casual dates, like to a Tony Bennett concert, and that their relationship was never serious. When Elvis's team asked her to star with him again in Blue Hawaii 1961, she turned them down because she thought the role was too small and wanted her own makeup artist and secretary, which made the studio unhappy. 20th Century Fox suspended her, but she didn't back down because she wasn't interested in just being a love interest. There was no way they could work together again after her relationship with Frank Sinatra ended after 6 weeks. Sinatra wanted her to give up her career, but she refused. "Frank wants me to give up the business," she told a columnist. "It's a bit of a problem for me." She had spent years working towards stardom and wasn't going to give it up for Sinatra. Their breakup was friendly, but it showed a lot about her. Hollywood women weren't supposed to be independent. They were supposed to fall in love, settle down, and step aside. Prowse wasn't willing to do that. Years later, she had mixed feelings about her time with Sinatra. "I was as much flattered as I was in love," she said. "He was a complex man full of charm but difficult after a few drinks." Despite everything, Sinatra remained an important part of her life, and their story became one of Hollywood's great romances, but it also showed that Prowse was different. She made her own decisions. When she was offered the role of Mrs. Frank Sinatra, she turned it down. In a time when women were expected to choose between love and ambition, she chose herself. That choice changed her life and solidified her legacy. Juliet Prowse had the talent and charm to be a Hollywood star, but the business never gave her the chance. In 1961, she starred in The Fiercest Heart, a historical adventure set in 1837 South Africa, co-starring Stuart Whitman. The movie should have been a big step forward. Instead, it was just another normal production that didn't do much for her career. That same year, she played Rena Mitchell opposite Debbie Reynolds in the comedy western The Second Time Around. The movie had charm and Reynolds was a big name, but PR role was small and lacked depth. Once again, her talent wasn't used to its full potential. Her biggest problem was her contract with 20th Century Fox, which let the studio loan her out to other productions. This meant she didn't have much say over the roles she played. She refused to be in Blue Hawaii with Elvis Presley because she didn't think the role had any depth. Fox suspended her, putting her career at risk. On top of that, Hollywood mostly saw her as a dancer rather than a serious actress. Her performances in Ken Conan and GI Blues impressed audiences, but she had a hard time finding dramatic or leading roles. By the mid-1960s, her film career had stopped, and in 1965, she decided to try her luck on TV. She was the star of the NBC drama Mona McCluskey, played a beautiful Hollywood actress married to Denny Miller as an Air Force sergeant. The show was about the conflict between her famous career and her husband's simple military life. It was an interesting premise, but it aired on Thursday nights, competing with Peyton Place and CBS Thursday Night Movie, two of the most popular shows at the time. This hurt the show's ratings, even though it had strong support behind the scenes. It was produced by George Burns and had guest stars like Sal Mono, and Mona McCluskey didn't last, though. The show was canceled after just one season on April 14, 1966. Prowse didn't let the setback bother her. She later said, "Things usually work out for the best. I never worry about what happens in my career because I can always do something else." That something else was theater, since she didn't have many chances in movies and TV shows. She starred in several productions of Sweet Charity, first in 1967 and again in 1971, and her performance as Charity Hope Valentine received high praise. She also played lead roles in Kismet in its London production and Irma Luss in a number of venues between 1963 and 1968. Juliet Prowse's career put her in the spotlight, but her personal life had its own twists and turns. She was married twice, had a son, and went through hard times that tested her strength. In 1969, she married dancer and choreographer Eddie Frazier. Their shared love of dance may have seemed like a strong foundation, but their marriage only lasted 8 months. At the time, the exact reasons for their divorce were never made public. Prowse was already a famous actress and dancer, having worked with Frank Sinatra in Conan in 1960 and with Elvis Presley in GI Blues that same year. Her fame kept her in the public eye, which can put stress on any relationship. In 1972, she married again, this time to actor John McCook. Their wedding was supposed to happen earlier, but something unexpected happened on August 2, 1972, the day they were supposed to get married. But Prowse gave birth to their son Seth Cook first. They pushed back the wedding by 5 weeks and were married later that same year. Their marriage lasted 7 years, and McCook later became famous for playing Eric Forrester on The Bold and the Beautiful. Prowse kept working, balancing motherhood with a career that kept her in demand even after they divorced in 1979. They stayed in touch through their son Seth, who married again and had 3 more children, giving Seth half siblings. She starred in stage productions, headlined shows in Las Vegas, and was named Entertainer of the Year. She was dedicated to her job even when life threw her curveballs. In September 1987, Juliet Prowse was getting ready for Circus of the Stars, a show where famous people did dangerous circus acts. She chose to work with big cats instead of trying the trapeze because she joked that she might lose an arm but wouldn't break a leg. But during her 4th week of training at California at State University Northridge, things took a scary turn when an 80-pound leopard named Sheila attacked her. The big cat lunged at her neck, its teeth dangerously close to an artery that was being worked on. As trainers rushed in, blood poured from the wounds, and she was quickly taken to Granada Hills Community Hospital, where doctors stitched up her injuries. She only needed 5 stitches, and she was sent home within 30 minutes. It was a brutal attack, but she didn't back down. The attack was the first of its kind in Circus of the Stars history. The show had always been dangerous, but no one had ever been mauled before. Later, Prowse's trainer said that the leopard wasn't trying to kill her. Big cats bite when they are playing or showing affection, but this playful bite almost killed her. Most people would have left after an experience like that, but 2 months later, on December 2, 1987, Prowse was at NBC Studios in Las Vegas. Burbank was practicing for The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. The segment was supposed to show off her work with wild leopards. She stood behind Carson and Sheila put its front paws on her shoulders. Suddenly, the big cat attacked again, biting PR in the neck and ear, leaving deep wounds. This time, injuries were much worse, and she needed 30 stitches, which was a lot more than the first attack. Witnesses said the leopard reacted when PR moved her head slightly, which set off its natural instincts. She was shocked that the same leopard had attacked her twice, but she still agreed to work with it. Prowse didn't blame Sheila or her trainers, but she knew she couldn't take another risk like this, so she decided she would never work with animals bigger than an alley cat again. Juliet Prowse never stopped performing in the 1970s and 1980s. She stayed a star in musical theater and took on roles that showed she could be both an actress and a dancer. In MIM and The Pajama Game, she played the title role for the first time in the late 1960s. The musical, which was based on Patrick Dennis's novel, was about a free-spirited woman who takes in her orphaned nephew. Prowse played the role many times, including in a major revival in the early 1990s. By that time, she had more life experience and felt a deeper connection to the character as a mother. Songs like If He Walked Into My Life took on a new meaning for her. Revival, directed by John Boab, who had worked with her before, showed how much she had grown as an actress. Then there was The Pajama Game in 1973, where she played the lead role and had to have great comedic timing and do a lot of complicated dance moves. She did it with ease, and both the audience and critics loved her energy. She didn't stop there. she went on to star in other musicals like Sweet Charity and Irma Luss, showing that she could play any part. During this time, she also became one of the biggest stars in Las Vegas, where she headlined shows with dance music, comedy, and performances at some of the city's most famous venues. Her success earned her major praise, including the title of Las Vegas Performer of the Year. She had a way of connecting with audiences that made every performance unique. In the late 1970s and 1980s, she was a regular on TV, appearing in variety shows and popular TV specials. From 1979 to 1984, she was a guest star in a number of popular TV shows. She played Samantha Bricker and Faye Marsh on episodes of The Love Boat. The show was known for its famous guests, and Prowse was a fan. She also worked with famous entertainers like Bob Hope and Perry Como. In 1962, she joined Lucille Ball and Bing Crosby on the Bob Hope Show, where she did comedy sketches and musical numbers. People loved her charm and stage presence, and she stayed a popular guest on variety shows well into the 1980s. In the mid-1980s and early 1990s, she even hosted PBS Championship. She used her knowledge to bring more attention to ballroom dance, but one of the most powerful moments of her career happened in 1995, when she went back on stage to perform in Sugar Babies at the Desert Inn in Las Vegas. The show was a musical tribute to classic burlesque, with dance numbers and comedy. She had been diagnosed with cancer in 1994, but it went into remission long enough for her to take on the role, where she reunited with Mickey Rooney, who had played the lead in the original Broadway production. Juliet Prowse was a talented dancer and actress who lit up the stage and screen in 1979. But in 1994, she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, a disease that was known for being aggressive and having low survivor rates. It was a terrible diagnosis, but she refused to let it take over her life. She fought hard, and against all odds, her cancer went into remission in 1995. That same year, she made an amazing comeback to the stage, performing in Sugar Babies with Mickey Rooney, showing that she still had it. Pancreatic cancer drains the body, causing pain, weight loss, and exhaustion, but she kept going because her love of performing was stronger than the illness. She gave her fans one last chance to see her perform before the cancer came back stronger than before. In 1996, her cancer came back aggressively, and this time there was no recovery. Her health quickly got worse, and on September 14, 1996, she died at her home in Buy Hills, Los Angeles. She was only 11 days away from turning 60. Her death was the sad end of a 4-decade career in which she danced with Frank Sinatra in Conan and starred opposite Elvis Presley in GI Blues. She was famous on TV and in shows, but beyond her fame, she was a mother, a daughter, and a loved one. She is survived by her son Seth Cook, who was born on August 2, 1972. She had him with actor John Mook, whom she divorced in 1979, but JN remained an important part of Seth's life even after they split up. Prowse's mother, brother, and longtime partner BJ Allen also survive her. They were by her side in her last years, giving her support and love. A private memorial was held in her honor, giving those closest to her a chance to say goodbye.